Good morning, all the audience. I think it's been a pleasure once again to welcome you all on behalf of Microlabs. And thanks to Dr. A.K. Balaji as well as Dr. D.S. Rana, who will be the moderators for today's program. And this is another a new opportunity for us to meet all the PGs. And we are very glad that Microlabs is supporting this particular program in the benefits of all the PGs. So we thank once again for all of you to having joined us and welcome you once again. Over to you, Dr. Balaji. Sir, kindly welcome the moderators.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Raja. On behalf of Microlab and Department of Nephrology, I welcome all the DM and DNB students for this Regain PG program. This is a bedside we are conducting every Monday, and a very experienced and distinguished faculty is every time taking the bedside. And we are very fortunate that we have Dr. Vivekanand Jha today as a guest faculty. Very distinguished academician and having keen interest in clinical research. Trained from PGI Chandigarh. He, in fact, is our colleague and very good friend of myself as well as Dr. Ashwini Gupta. And we are fortunate as a country that Dr. Vivekanand Jha today is the president of International Society of Nephrology. It is a big, proud moment for all. Benefit with his expertise and experience. And he is an excellent teacher. And I'm sure you will all benefit. Dr. Ravi Kumar Singh is the presenter. He is the final exam going student from Dandaram Hospital. So he will be discussing the bedside case. Dr. Jha, please.
Thanks, Dr. Balla, for your kind words, and good to be with all of you for this case discussion. Since we have a limited time, I think we should get going unless you are still waiting for more people to join.
No. We will continue.
History was given by the patient himself. He is asymptomatic at present. I would like to backdate my history 2 years back in February 2018 when he noticed lower limb swelling, which was sudden in onset, bilateral pitting up to mid-leg, gradually progressive, more during the evening hours, and it was associated with facial puffiness in the morning, which was confined around periorbital region. Swelling was not associated. There was no history of frothy urine or cola-colored urine or pinkish urine. There was no history of decreased urine output. There was no history of breathlessness, orthopnea, PAD, chest pain or palpitation. There was no history of jaundice or blood transfusion. Jaundice or blood transfusion. There was no history of abdominal distension or abdominal pain. There was no history of cold intolerance, constipation or lethargy. There was no history of fever, sore throat or symptoms of upper respiratory tract infections. There was no history of rash, joint pain or oral ulcers. There was no history of polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia. No history of weight loss or decreased appetite. No
Can I stop you here and ask, yes, why are you giving me all this negativity?
Sir, actually, the patient had swelling of bilateral lower limbs. So, with the help of history, I would like to rule out the various causes of swelling in the body.
So, what at this stage, what are you thinking about the cause of his swelling? Because sir, your negative history should be relevant. You can't.
Yes,
you should go on typing a 200 negative points.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, actually, first of all, I would like to rule out whether the cause of swelling is because of renal disease or some other disease like congestive heart failure or cirrhosis of liver or hypothyroidism. So for that,
do you think that swelling due to hypothyroidism presents in this fashion? When it is sudden in onset, changes between morning and evening? Only
no, sir. Sir, but initially it may be a mimicker of the swelling. So just to rule out, sir, I have mentioned all these things.
Well, it's good to rule out, but don't be completely unrealistic, right? I think you should think of important causes that can mimic
yes,
presentation that you have here in the syndrome or
Yes,
whatever, right?
yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so
Yes,
what
sir.
are the common differentials?
The common differentials are congestive heart failure, cirrhosis of liver, and nephrotic syndrome.
So don't say cirrhosis of liver. It could be any other type of
Yes, sir.
decompensated
Yes, sir.
liver
Yes, sir.
disease.
Decompensated liver disease, sir, and
Okay.
anemia with hypoproteinemia.
Anemia. How does anemia produce swelling?
Sir, anemia with hypoproteinemia, sir. In case
Why
of
are you saying anemia? Why are you saying? I mean, you are reciting some gynecological terms, right? Hypoproteinemia, right?
yes, sir,
Which is maybe due
hypoproteinemia.
to malnutrition, something like
Yes, sir.
that.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
Yes, sir.
I think your negative history should be pertinent. It should
Yes, sir.
not. It should not look like you are just reciting the entire textbook of medicine that you have read somewhere, right?
No, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
So
So he had a negative history for sir, breathlessness, orthopnea, PND, chest pain, and palpitation. So with the help of this, we can rule out the cardiac cause.
how do you rule out what are you ruling out with palpitation?
Sir, palpitation is just for to rule out some arrhythmia which can exacerbate the heart failure, sir.
By itself, palpitation itself doesn't hold any significance. I think
Yes,
the
sir.
main thing for you to talk about is if there is any orthopnea or any PND or
Yes, sir.
uh, any such feature.
Yes, sir.
Palpitation, etc. These are minor complaints, and anyone can have palpitation. If you ask
Yes.
10 people, irrespective
Yes.
of what they have come to your OPD with, they will say they have palpitation.
Yes.
Uh, so that's a
Yes.
problem. So
Yes, sir.
uh, that's for heart failure. What else? How are you going to rule out liver disease from history?
Hello, sir.
How are
Am I?
you? Yeah, I
Yes,
can
sir.
hear you. I don't know.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what's going on. I think there is a lot of.
Yes, sir. For to rule out liver disease, we can think we can take the history of jaundice or blood transfusion or abdominal
So
distension.
how does history of blood transfusion rule out liver disease?
Sir,
Again, don't be
previously,
don't be don't be unrealistic. History of
sir.
blood transfusion may or may not be associated with anything. I
Yes,
think
sir.
giving a history of jaundice is fine.
Yes, sir.
History of jaundice, history of abdominal distension, because that
Distension.
could be a prominent feature in liver disease.
Yes,
So I
sir.
think you should stick to those rather than go on about all kinds of things that are more like fishing expedition.
Yes.
Okay. And
Okay, sir.
then and then third one you said was hypoproteinemia, and the cause of hypoproteinemia is typically malnutrition. So
Yes, sir.
you should provide history whether there is any history to suggest development of malnutrition in such a patient, which is very
Yes.
unusual these days. So
Yes, sir. Yes.
I think that should be the limit of what you want to say in your negative history. Don't
Oh,
just go on describing everything. Know this, know that.
okay, sir. So with this complaint, sir, he initially consulted a local physician and was evaluated there. His blood pressure was 120 by 80 millimeter of mercury at that time.
He
He
gave
was
you
given,
this history that his blood pressure was 120 over 80.
yes, sir. He told, sir.
He
Hello, sir.
his physician had told him that his blood pressure was 120 over 80.
80, yes, sir.
And don't try to fool me. I've been here for more than the number of years you have been born on this earth.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no one tells. So I mean, he visited some physician, all of that. How is that relevant to history?
Sir, for this swelling, he consulted a local
So
physician.
what? So what?
So, sir, as a part of general checkup, his blood pressure was taken.
So his blood pressure was taken. That's all right. How
Yes,
does
sir.
it matter that you need to mention the exact blood pressure reading at this time?
Okay, sir. So he was given some medicines and edema was reduced with it. But within 15 days, again, he had similar complaints. So he was further evaluated and told that at that time his urine testing was done, and he was said that there was leaking some protein in urine.
Okay.
Gangaram Hospital, and
Please don't name hospitals. How does it matter which hospital he was evaluated?
yes, sir. No, no, nothing, sir. He was evaluated at a tertiary care hospital, and he remembers that.
What does it matter? Tertiary care, secondary care, primary care.
Yes, sir.
Again,
He
why
was
does it matter whether he was evaluated or not evaluated? So why do you have to? I mean, you guys are. I know that you guys are, serving some hospital, but this is case presentation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You have to discuss the case.
Yes. So he remembers that his 24-hour urinary protein was 9 grams per day, and his serum creatinine was 1.3 milligram per deciliter. At this time, sir,
Can you
should I mention?
remind me how educated this patient is?
Sir, he is a businessman and he is a master's. He has a master's degree.
What kind of business does he do?
Sir, he's a importer exporter.
What does he import? What does he export?
Sir, this I have not asked, sir. But he belongs to upper socioeconomic class, and he has a master's degree in business administration.
Okay.
So at that time, sir, he remembers that. Sir, should I mention the negative history, pertinent negative histories here, sir?
Please mention whatever you want to mention.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So at this time, sir, he was detailed evaluated, and on direct questioning, he told that there was no history of sore throat, fever.
Did you do the direct questioning at that time?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Yes, sir. There was no history of rash, joint pain, oral ulcers. There was no history of polyuria, polyphagia, or polydipsia. There was no history of weight loss or decreased appetite. There was no history of analgesic use or alternative medication use. There was no history of allergy to dust or pollen grains. So, in view of high protein, high grade of proteinuria, he underwent a renal biopsy, which was uneventful. During his hospital course, his blood pressure was within normal limit, as he was told by the hospital staff. So post renal biopsy, he was started on tablet prednisolone 60 milligram per day and tab ramipril 5 milligram per day, and was given tab torsemide 10 milligram for 5 days. His symptoms subsided within 15 days of treatment, and he was in regular follow-up with urine and blood reports. He remained. Sir, he received tablet prednisolone 60 milligram per day, tablet ramipril 5 milligram per day, and torsemide 10 milligram for 5 days.
Okay.
His symptoms subsided within 15 days of treatment, and he was in regular follow-up with urine and blood reports. He remembered that at 1.5 months of treatment, he was absolutely fine, and his urine was not showing any protein, and his creatinine has come down to 0.8 milligram per deciliter. Still, he was advised to continue prednisolone 60 milligram till 3 months, and after 3 months on tapering within 10 days, his urine showed proteinuria, which was confirmed twice, and he was continued with tab prednisolone 60 milligram per day till 4 months.
So he was asked to continue 60 milligram prednisolone for 3 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
60 milligram.
Yes, sir. 60 milligram per day.
Okay.
And sir, on 3rd month, while on tapering, within 10 days, his urine showed heavy proteinuria, which was confirmed twice. So his dose was increased, and this was continued up to 4 months.
How was the tapering done?
Sir, 60 milligram, then 50 milligram, sir. Per every 2 weekly, sir, 5 milligram reduction.
How was it? Don't tell me theoretically. How was it done in this case? And at what dose, after how many days of starting the taper, did his proteinuria reappear?
Sir, once he was in remission, 60 milligram, it was tapered to 50 milligram, sir.
Okay.
Then in next week, it was tapered to 45 milligram. So at that time, within 10 days span, his urine showed proteinuria, and it was confirmed twice. And thereafter, his dose was again increased to 60 milligram per day.
So his proteinuria reappeared at 45 milligrams.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Then at the end of 4 months, after starting prednisolone, when his proteinuria disappeared, so he was again advised for tapering, but he did not remember the exact dose of tapering. But he said that up to 20 milligram of prednisolone per day, his reports were normal.
Okay.
When his prednisolone was made 15 milligram after 1.5 months, he started having proteinuria again, which was increasing in next 15 days. So he was again put on 60 milligram of prednisolone and explained for another therapy once proteinuria gets normal.
All right.
So after 10 days, his urine protein was absent, and at the same time, he was started on tablet cyclosporine 150 milligram morning and 100 milligram evening in a day with prednisolone. After 1 week, he was advised for a blood test and his cyclosporine level was tested, and he was advised to continue cyclosporine and steroid tapering was started once again.
So cyclosporine and steroid both were given.
Yes, sir. Steroid was tapered and cyclosporine was continued, sir.
Okay. How long was steroid given along with cyclosporine?
Sir, at that time, initially it was started, but gradually at the end of 6 months, it was tapered down to less than 5 milligrams, sir.
Okay.
But he developed acne on face with facial swelling. So steroid was tapered to 10 milligram per day within 1 month and 5 milligram per day within 2 months. But this was not, he was not having proteinuria during this period. After 6 months of cyclosporine of the same dose, he was advised for tapering, and he does not remember the exact dose of tapering, but within 4 months, he was on cyclosporine 75 milligram twice a day, and he did not have any proteinuria or renal dysfunction or no cosmetic side effects. Level of cyclosporine was normal. So he was advised to continue for 2 more months, and then again it was tapered, but during tapering within 10 days, he developed 6 grams of proteinuria. So he was explained for the disease relapse, and he was advised to take cyclosporine 100 milligram twice a day, and dose of steroids was increased to 20 milligram per day. Within 3 months of it, again he had no proteinuria, and steroid was reduced to 5 milligram per day, and cyclosporine 100 milligram in morning and 50 milligram evening per day. So after this event, 2 more times his nephrologist tried to reduce his cyclosporine, but below this lows he had proteinuria. So for last 3 months, he is on cyclosporine 75 milligram BD with prednisolone 5 milligram per day, and ramipril was increased to 10 milligram per day. There was no history of epigastric pain, no history of excess hair on the face, no history of weakness or difficulty in getting up from sitting position, no history of easy bruising, no history of abdominal stria.
So since the time his initial edema had developed and he presented, and the edema disappeared with 5 days of diuretic therapy, has he ever required diuretics again?
No, sir.
He has never required any diuretics.
No, sir.
He never had any other symptoms, because you have not described any symptoms. You just described proteinuria.
Yes, sir. He never had any other symptoms, sir.
You didn't
So,
even say that he did not have any other symptoms. That what it tells me is that you are not interested in symptoms. You are only interested in reports.
No, sir. He had no symptoms. Oh, he was doing fine, sir.
Well, now I have only your word for it, because we are on a Zoom call and I can't talk to the patient.
Yes, sir.
So, true or not, but then that's all I have, in fact.
Yes.
The fact is that you did not say whether he had any symptoms or whether he had no symptoms. Either way, which
Yes,
is,
sir.
this is a clinical examination. You are going
Yes,
to have
sir.
a clinical examination, right? I mean,
Yes,
that's
sir.
the reason you are presenting this case.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if one has to do a clinical examination with only paper reports, then we don't need a case, right?
Yes, sir. So,
did he gain any weight while he was on steroids?
Sir, weight gaining was not there, sir.
That also was not there. Because,
Yes, sir.
now you will say confidently whatever, because I have no way to check.
No, sir.
It is impossible for me to believe that a person who has been taking steroids for 6 months and more
Sir,
would not
4
have
months, sir,
gained any weight.
initially, then tapered, sir.
What?
Sir, initially for 4 months, then it was tapered, sir.
Yeah, so, but he
Yeah.
was on steroids, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And when you tapered, his his proteinuria came back and you restarted steroids. He was not really tapered.
Yes, sir.
And he was on steroids even after that, while he was being given cyclosporine.
Yes, sir.
And you are saying that he did not gain any weight.
Sir, he had some cosmetic side effects in the form of acne and Cushingoid facies, sir. But he did not gain weight, sir.
Okay. How many
Yes,
of, I don't know if people can respond or not, because, if we were in a physical class, I would ask the class, how many of your colleagues believe you that
Yes, sir.
this patient did not gain any weight, and you asked him. But I don't think we can do that.
Yes, sir.
But I don't believe you for sure. I can tell you that. What are the other complications that you're looking out for in a patient who has been on steroids for several months?
Sir, complications can be because of cosmetic side effects of steroids in the form of acne, Cushingoid facies, bull neck. It can be neuromuscular in the form of proximal myopathy. In the form of, sir,
Please don't tell me theoretical names. What will the patient complain of? We are talking about the patient. How will
yes, sir.
will the patient tell you I have proximal myopathy?
Sir, he will tell he has difficulty in getting up from sitting position, or he has some pain in his upper extremities, near the shoulders.
Pain in upper extremity is a feature of proximal myopathy?
Sir, pain in near shoulders, sir. Near
Is it
shoulders.
really?
Ma
Does
Sir,
myopathy cause pain?
sir, actually there is a difficulty in like hanging cloths
So
overhead.
not pain?
So there is difficulty, sir. Weakness, sir.
So please
Not pain.
ask relevant symptoms and
Yes, sir.
don't give me your theoretical knowledge. I know that you have read the book, about complications, but I think you need to be able to elicit the history from the patient about
Yes.
complications.
Yes, sir.
And once again, I find it very difficult to believe that the patient who has been on high dose steroids for several months has no history of any muscle weakness at all. That's really very difficult to believe. But again, that's what you're telling me. What are other complications that patients may develop while on steroids?
Sir, patients may develop, sir, peptic ulcerations. They may develop neurologically, sir, they may develop psychosis. They may develop in bone diseases. They may develop osteoporosis. And
Again, you are giving me, names of diseases, osteoporosis. Will the patient say I have osteoporosis?
sir, they may develop, sir, fractures with trivial trauma.
Is fracture the first thing that happens?
Worst thing that happens.
So,
Sorry, sir.
just be careful as to what you are saying.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, let's go on. I think we have been at this for half an hour already.
Yes, sir.
Point to be made here is that don't sort of display your theoretical knowledge in a case discussion. I think
Yes,
the
sir.
point is for us to try and ascertain how well can you understand the patient's problems, patient symptoms, and take care of them, include that in your evaluation and your treatment plan.
Yes, sir.
All right, please
So, yes, sir. Hello,
continue.
sir.
Please
Yes, sir.
continue.
Sir, past history, there was no history of diabetes or hypertension or any chronic illness like tuberculosis. No history of similar complaints in the past. Antenatal history, his mother had regular antenatal visits to her obstetrician. He had no history of hypertension or diabetes during pregnancy. He was born of a non-consanguineous marriage through normal vaginal delivery at full term. Birth weight was 2.8 kilograms. He achieved developmental milestones normally and received vaccination according to national immunization schedule.
He knows all of that, right? That he achieved his milestones normally. He knows that himself.
Sir, he told that his development was good enough. So, yeah, actually, his height and weight is also good, sir. Right now, he belongs to a good family.
Because why are, first of all, why are you giving me this history of developmental milestones?
Sir, actually, sir, I wanted to correlate with the cause of nephrotic syndrome, sir.
What
So,
cause?
sir,
What cause will you find out by understanding the history of developmental milestones? When you
sir,
say developmental milestones, I hope
yes,
you
sir,
understand what you mean. At what
yes,
age
sir,
you start sitting
yes, sir,
up, and
yes,
you
sir,
are saying that all of that history was normal. You are saying
yes, sir, yes, sir. So, sir, matlab, just to hello, sir.
it only tells me that you falsify history with great degree of confidence.
No, sir. Actually, sir, he is from a good family, and his nutrition and all those things were good taken care of.
Like your colleagues are all from very good families, right? Most
Yes,
of them.
yes,
They're very
yes, sir.
smart. If you
Yes, sir.
ask them at what age did you start sitting up, how many of them will be able to give you the correct answer?
No, sir. But they, sir, they may say, sir, that there were no problems like this, sir. So from that we can corroborate whether that there was
You are,
some problem.
there is a formula which is called that when you are in a hole, stop digging.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
but you seem to be wanting to continue to dig.
No, sir.
You should you should present history. So what it tells me is that you have just read the textbook and you have created a theoretical history, and that's what you are presenting to me. It's of no relevance. First of all, developmental milestones to the differential diagnosis. That what differential diagnosis? Okay, tell me what differential diagnosis will you include or rule out on the basis of developmental history?
Sir, if there is a problem with developmental history, we can think of some abnormalities of neural system, like there were multiple syndromes, sir, which can cause,
What syndrome? Tell me one.
sir, like mm, there is, sir, Galloway-Mowat syndrome of congenital nephrotic syndrome.
So he has
Uh,
got congenital nephrotic syndrome. Is what
no,
you're
sir.
saying?
No, sir. Matlab, just to rule out, sir, any problem was there or not.
So
Uh,
when this 32 or 34 years old male was presented with a recent history of swelling of feet, what syndrome are you planning to rule out by taking a developmental history, which is obviously false?
sir, some patients may have genetic nephrotic syndrome, like NPHS2 mutation.
And how will the history of developmental abnormality help you in locating that diagnosis?
Uh, sir, like if they have vitamin D resistant rickets or something like that, so that can point towards some kidney problem.
I hope Dr. Bhalla and Dr. Vinand Bhargav, etc., they are your bosses, right? I hope they are listening.
Yes, sir.
And I hope they are able to help you in improving your history taking and history presentation.
Yes, yes, Dr.
Anyway,
Jha, I totally agree with you, and it needs to be improved.
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
please carry on.
Yes, a family history patient is healthy with no history of hypertension, diabetes, or any other kidney disease. Father is 60 years old, mother is 58 years old. His wife is 31-year-old, and children is a 4-year healthy child. Personal history is mixed with non-vegetarian once per week. Bowel and bladder are normal, no addictions. Drug history at present, he is taking cyclosporine 75 milligram twice daily, prednisolone 5 milligram per day, with ramiprid 10 milligram per day, and pantoprazole and calcium. He was advised for pneumococcal vaccination, but he has not yet received. So, should I summarize, sir?
Yeah, please do.
So, he's a 34-year-old male with no prior history of diabetes, hypertension, or any chronic illness. Presented with complaints of swelling of bilateral legs 2 years back, and was informed that he was leaking protein in his urine. For this complaint, he was evaluated at our hospital, and to establish the cause of proteinuria, he underwent a kidney biopsy. After the biopsy, he was treated with prednisolone monotherapy, achieved complete remission within 1.5 months, but had steroid dependence. So he was started on cyclosporine, but developed relapse on reducing cyclosporine. So continued with cyclosporine, and for last 1.5 years, he is on cyclosporine with low dose of steroid with some cosmetic side effects. At present, he is in complete remission.
Okay. So what is your diagnostic possibility?
So adult onset nephrotic syndrome, probably mostly because of primary glomerular disease. And my possibility will be, sir, first FSGS, then membranous nephropathy and MCD, sir.
All right.
With
So anything else? Is that your complete diagnosis from history?
no, sir. No, sir. With steroid dependence, no side effects, and there are some cosmetic side effects of steroids in the form of acne on face and Cushingoid facies.
He has those now,
Yes, sir. Now, sir.
even though he is not on steroids.
He is on low dose steroids, sir.
He is on steroids. How much?
Yes, for 5 milligram per day.
And he has acne with steroids 5 milligram per day.
Acne and Cushingoid facies, sir.
He has both of them with
Yes, sir.
5 milligrams a day of steroids.
Sir, he's on cyclosporine also, so probably.
Yeah, but he has Cushingoid features from cyclosporine, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir. Cushingoid features from steroid side effects, sir.
5 milligram per day of steroids. For how long has he been on 5 milligram per day?
Sir, last 6 months, sir.
And he has Cushingoid features. Okay, again, you are the boss here. All right, continue.
So on examination, patient is concerned.
Right. So okay. So tell me, why do you think he has FSGS? Why do you think he has primary glomerular disease? First of all, what is primary glomerular disease?
Sir, primary glomerular diseases, they primarily, they are thought to be because of some permeability factors.
What is a primary? How do you differentiate between primary glomerular disease and secondary glomerular disease from history?
Sir, primary glomerular disease has sudden onset of illness. The onset is sudden. The age presentation is of younger age. There is is less prevalence. The hypertension is less common. There is no renal dysfunction. The patient usually presents with a nephrotic syndrome, full-blown nephrotic syndrome. While in case of secondary glomerular disease,
can I stop you and say that everything you said right now is wrong? What has the primary or secondary got to do with suddenness or not suddenness of presentation, or presentation with a nephrotic syndrome? Does SLE not present with nephrotic syndrome?
Sorry, sir?
Does lupus not present with nephrotic syndrome?
Sir, it may present, sir, but more common in case of primary.
All primary glomerular diseases present with nephrotic syndrome.
No, sir. So primary glomerular diseases, sir,
again, what has sudden onset or gradual onset got to do with primary or secondary nephrotic syndrome?
Sir, in primary, sir, primary nephrotic syndrome, the cause is usually the is thought to be a permeability factor.
Really?
Which
is it true? Is membranous nephropathy primary nephrotic syndrome or no?
Yes, sir.
Is there a permeability factor involved there?
No, sir. For in case of FSGS,
is minimal change a primary? I asked you a very simple question. What
yes,
is
sir.
the difference between a primary and secondary glomerular disease from history?
Yes, sir. Sir, in secondary glomerular disease, we have, sir, other involvement, other system involvement, sir.
Now you are coming on track. So primary
Yes,
glomerular disease is a condition where the main organ, may not be the only organ, but the main organ involved is the kidney.
Kidneys, yes, sir.
That is primary renal disease.
Yes, sir.
Whereas in secondary glomerular disease or secondary renal disease, you have, in fact, other organs may be more dominant, involvement of other organs may be more dominant, or at least co-dominant as the involvement of the kidney. So that is what you try to take from history. Is there history of involvement of any other organ system?
Yes, sir.
So you should say that from history, I did not get any evidence to suggest involvement of any other organ system.
Any other
So
organ
it's
system.
a primary glomerular disease.
Yes, sir.
Don't go around giving all that,
Yes,
about
sir.
sudden and all of that. Okay, so that we have sorted that out. And then in
Yes, sir.
primary glomerular disease, why do you think he has FSGS?
Sir, because of his
You said
age
your
of,
first possibility was FSGS, your second possibility was membranous nephropathy, and the third is minimal change disease. Okay,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
so why do you
Well,
think he has FSGS?
sir, sir, because of his age of presentation. At this age, FSGS is the most common glomerular disease.
Is that right? At the age of
Uh,
30, 34, FSGS is the most common glomerular disease?
yes, sir. Sir, as per sir your paper, sir,
Which,
this was
which of my papers shows that FSGS is the commonest glomerular disease at the age of 34?
sir in sir Indian Journal of Nephrology 2014. Sir, your team has published a paper in which this was shown that in North India, the primary glomerular disease, uh, the spectrum has been changing, and for last 10 years, FSGS is the most common primary disease, sir.
Oh, okay. So, there are two things I think you
Yes,
need
sir.
to understand. One is what is, so the diagnosis there is what is the biopsy, commonest biopsy diagnosis that you find in terms of glomerulonephritis. And
Yes,
the
sir.
second is when you are faced with a patient who comes to you with a certain clinical feature, then what is your commonest primary diagnosis? For example, FSGS or membranous nephropathy or other conditions, they have differences in their presentation, right?
Yes, sir.
So even though FSGS will be maybe there with a certain frequency, what is the proportion of patients who present with nephrotic syndrome in FSGS? Can you tell me that?
Yes, sir. In up to 80% of patients may present with nephrotic syndrome, sir.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Really?
sir.
All FSGS. We are talking of all FSGS, primary,
Oh,
secondary.
sir, I was talking about sir primary FSGs.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So one is that you are saying age.
Yes, sir.
What else are you saying?
Sir, there is absence of any hematuria, hypertension, renal dysfunction. So all these goes in more in favor of FSGS, sir. There is no complication of nephrotic syndrome in the form of thromboembolism or DVT. So
Complication. How many patients with complication you have seen with DVT, etc.?
sir, around 10 patients, sir.
10 patients you have seen. You have
Yes, sir.
seen many more patients with membranous nephropathy or any other condition. So don't use complications as.
Yes, sir.
I think you have a patient in front of you. So don't
Yes, sir.
tell me about what you read from a textbook. From this patient, what makes you think that his primary diagnosis is FSGS?
Sir, first, sir, age of presentation. Then, sir, secondary, absence of any hypertension or renal dysfunction.
So
Third, sir,
when you say
there is response.
when you say age of presentation, you
Yes,
should
sir.
look at the commonest age, the most frequent age of presentation of a given condition. So what is the most frequent age at which FSGS presents?
20 to 40.
20 to 40. Okay. What else?
Sir, then, sir, there is the patient responded to steroid monotherapy.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good point. The patient responded to steroids, so which is consistent with FSGS.
Yes, sir. And sir, no other organ involvement.
So what condition does responds very easily to steroids or most
Sir,
frequently to steroids?
minimal change disease, sir.
Minimal change disease. So why is minimal change disease not your first diagnosis?
Sir, because of age of presentation, sir.
So you can't have minimal change disease in adulthood.
Sir, we can have, sir.
So if the
Uh,
patient is responding easily to steroids,
yes, sir.
then uh, even if this person is an adult,
Yes, sir.
minimal change disease comes easily to mind.
Yes, sir. That's why I have kept it as a.
Your third diagnosis.
Sorry, sir.
That is your third diagnosis.
Yes, sir.
After membranous nephropathy. Does
Yes, sir.
membranous nephropathy respond to steroids?
No, sir.
So,
Sir, that point is against membranous nephropathy. That's why I have kept it lower down.
Baba, you are just giving me your theoretical interpretation. You have a patient in front of you.
Yes,
This
sir.
patient has received steroids, responded to steroids,
Yes, sir.
right? So what are the 2-3 conditions that respond easily to steroids?
Sir, MCD and FSGS, sir.
Right. So those should be your first two diagnoses.
Yes, sir.
Minimal change and FSGS. In fact, a quick response to steroids should make minimal change always first in the list of diagnostic possibilities. FSGS is also important, but
Yes.
minimal change and FSGS would be really very
Yes.
important. That's
Yes, sir. Some people say that they are same spectrum.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
a different
Yes, sir.
question.
Yes, sir.
We are not getting there. We are discussing the clinical presentation of minimal
Yes, sir.
change.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are, and absence of any other abnormality. So in absence of hematuria, absence of hypertension, absence of any degree of kidney insufficiency, if you are now limited to differentiating between minimal change and FSGS, which one of these two diagnostic conditions are favored by these features in this patient?
MCD, FSGS.
So if there is no if you have 100 patients
Yes, sir.
who don't have any hematuria, who don't have any hypertension, who don't have any decline in GFR, have pure nephrotic syndrome, how many of them are likely to be minimal change? How many are likely to be FSGS?
Sir, in FSGS, sir, around 50% patients have some sort of hematuria, microscopic hematuria.
Right. So,
So,
as a group,
so as a group, I
absence of
yes,
these
sir.
conditions is likely to favor
MCD, sir.
MCD. Okay.
Yes, sir.
That
Yes, sir.
should be your first diagnostic possibility.
Yes, sir.
Even though both are very close, but
Yes,
if
sir.
I were to choose on the basis of the history that you have presented,
Yes, sir.
in terms of clinical diagnosis, I would put minimal change disease a little ahead.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
That's something which is important for you to remember.
Yes,
Don't describe diagnostic possibilities just from textbook. Diagnostic possibilities should be described on the basis of the patient that you have in front of you and the patient's characteristics.
yes.
Okay.
Should I proceed?
Yeah, please proceed. So these were one of two of your diagnostic possibilities.
Yes, sir.
Minimal change, FSGS. Any other diagnostic possibility? Do you still want to keep membranous in your diagnosis here?
Sir, since the patient responded to steroid monotherapy, so sir, I would like to keep it lower down.
Yeah, you don't want to entertain it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
Yes,
even
sir.
given the way this patient has been treated,
Yes, sir.
is not consistent with the treatment of membranous.
Of, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It
Definitely.
is consistent with treatment of minimal change or
Minimal or FSCs. Yes, sir.
so those are your two differential diagnoses on the basis of history at this particular point of time.
Yes.
All right. And then this patient went, but then, this patient has other issues also.
Yes,
He
sir.
is steroid dependent, as you described.
Yes, sir. Steroid dependent.
Does that help you in narrowing down your differential diagnosis?
Sir, even in both MCD and FSGS can have steroid dependence. So, just on the basis of that.
So how common is steroid dependence in FSGS?
Sir, around 25% patients are frequently relapsing or steroid dependent.
In FSGS?
Yes, sir.
Really? Where is it mentioned?
Sir,
Which textbook have you read?
sir, KDU, sir.
KDIGO is not a textbook. Okay, Rigo doesn't describe what percentage of patients are dependent on.
Venus, maybe they're asking question.
No, steroid dependence kind of feature is very uncommon it is not impossible, but it's very uncommon. So again, on the basis of history alone, that's another point which supports more a diagnosis of minimal change disease, where patients are described to be steroid dependent. So because these terms have come from minimal change literature, they have not come from any other disease condition.
Yes, sir.
Steroid
Yes, sir.
dependent, etc.
Yes, sir.
So that's something which is important for you to remember.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other? Suppose what else would have been present in this patient that would have supported a diagnosis of FSGS? So one we
Yes.
discussed already. If there was microscopic hematuria.
Yes, sir.
if there was
Hematuria, hypertension, or renal
What
dysfunction.
else? What else?
Then, sir, poor response to steroids.
Poor response to steroids. What else?
And sorry, sir.
So FSGS has, suppose you have done a kidney biopsy,
Yes, sir.
and you find that all the glomeruli are normal, okay,
Yes, sir.
histologically.
Yes, sir.
What are the, on light microscopy, what are the features that will cause you to suspect unsampled FSGS?
Sir, in light microscopy, first the number of gloms is important. How many gloms we are looking at?
Don't tell me all of that. We have a light microscopy, you have 50 gloms, all are normal.
Yes, sir.
On light microscopy.
Yes, sir.
But what feature, if present on the biopsy, will cause you to suspect FSGS?
Sir, if there is interstitial fibrosis or tubular atrophy, we can think of
So
unsampled age.
interstitial fibrosis, interstitial inflammation, etc., will lead you to suspect that there may be unsampled FSGS.
FSGS.
How does this present clinically?
Sir, proteinuria, sir, nephrotic syndrome.
Interstitial fibrosis, interstitial infiltration presents with proteinuria?
Sorry, sir, I couldn't. Sir, renal dysfunction, sir.
What?
If the, sir, renal dysfunction. If the,
beyond renal dysfunction may not be there. There is some renal dysfunction, but that's always not clinically apparent in terms of elevated serum creatinine. There is mild elevation of serum creatinine, let's say. But
yes, sir.
what other features will cause you to more strongly suspect FSGS?
Sir, low molecular weight proteins are present in urine more. So,
no, that's not true.
Hypertension, sir.
We have discussed hypertension. So other evidence of a defect in tubular function. For example,
Yes,
if you have renal glycosuria, if you have amino aciduria,
yes.
if you have proximal renal tubular acidosis.
Acidosis.
Right?
Yes,
Proximal.
yes.
Those sorts of things are present. Sometimes you can actually make a strong clinical suspicion of FSGS in this situation. So this is, again, we are discussing a clinical case. We are not discussing a textbook. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in clinical case, these are the kind of things you need to look at.
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you go on to the physical examination?
Yes, sir. On physical examination, patient is conscious, cooperative, well oriented to time, place.
Finding?
Sir, his BMI is at 22.26. Fairly moderately built, fairly nourished. Or sir, blood pressure is 120 by 70 millimeter of mercury in right and left arm sitting position, 130 by 70 in right and left popliteal in prone position. So he is non-hypertensive. So there is signs of steroid toxicity in the form of acne on the face and back and syngoid facies. No sign of hypertrichosis or gum hypertrophy. These are the positive findings, sir.
Systemic examination is normal.
Yes, sir. Systemic examination is normal.
Some cardiovascular system, abdominal examination, they're all normal, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir. Even
Okay.
CNS is also normal, sir.
Did you examine the fundus?
Yes, sir.
What did you find?
Sir, it was normal, sir.
What are you looking for?
Sir, changes of hypertension, sir, or
He
sir,
doesn't
in
have, but he
oh,
doesn't have hypertension. So why are you
yes,
looking
sir.
for?
Sir, then sir, cataract,
Yeah, you should
because
be looking for. Yeah, that's what you should be looking for evidence, right?
yes, sir,
You
cataracts.
spoke about steroid. He's been on steroids for a long time, so you should be
Yes, sir.
looking that he is developed. What kind of cataract are you looking for?
Sir, posterior capsular cataract.
Yeah. And how does posterior subcapsular cataract present historically?
सर जब ब्राइट लाइट में होता है सर तो उनको देखने में प्रॉब्लम होती है. देयर इज डिफिकल्टी इन विजन.
So those are the questions you need to ask in history, right?
यस सर.
Which you did not, because you're too intent on noting down the values of proteinuria and serum creatinine. Okay. So after physical examination, does your diagnosis change?
नो सर, MCD and FSGS.
So what will you do at this stage? Suppose this patient, you said this patient was seen by you when you first presented. How did you investigate him at that time? You said he was, he underwent a kidney biopsy, but other investigations must have been done.
Yes sir.
What other investigations would you do, or did you do at that time?
Sir,
In this
initial.
patient, so suppose you have now a 34-year-old person today who presents with nephrotic syndrome.
Yes sir.
Is normotensive, his GFR is normal, his urine, I presume, doesn't show any microscopic hematuria.
Yes,
What
sir.
investigations will you do? Tell me. One, two, three, four.
Yes sir. To know the cause of proteinuria, sir, I would like to look for the causes like first, sir, serum PLA2R assay to rule.
Is that the first investigation you will do?
No, sir. Sir, just to I am segregating, sir, investigation in the form of to know the cause and to treat and manage the patient, sir.
What is, okay, since you are going there, if a patient comes to you in the OPD, what is the first thing you always want to do to any patient with any condition?
Sir, CBC.
You said, just like you said, that you are looking for the cause. So what is
Yes,
your
sir.
purpose? When a patient comes to you and in your OPD, what purpose do you have in mind?
Sir, to know the cause and treat it if
Is that the
possible.
first thing you want to do? Know the cause. The first thing you always want to do is there something which needs urgent management.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
that should be the first thing you should try to establish.
Yes, sir.
So in such a patient who has come to you with edema, etc., what are the first few things that you want to rule out?
See, sir, to whether some infection are there which are clearing it. So
Infection, there is no history of infection, right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But in a patient, so because it's a management consideration, the first thing you want to do is you want to find out if there's something I need to do immediately to manage his condition, right?
Yes, sir.
So you want to establish what is his kidney function first. You
Yes,
want to
sir.
establish, is he developing any other complication related to
Nephrotic syndrome.
What are the
Yes, sir.
complications related to nephrotic syndrome that you need to be aware of at that time?
Sir, infections, then sir, the deep vein thrombosis and thromboembolism, thromboembolic complications, negative nitrogen balance, sir, patient can develop malnutrition, and because of edema and stasis, there can be ulcers in the scrotal region and all those if there is swelling.
It's all part of history, physical examination. You have done all of that. Now we are at
Yes, sir.
investigation.
Yes,
What
sir.
do you want to do in investigation to be able to ascertain if this patient requires
Sir,
some
first
immediate
we will quantify the protein loss to see how much proteinuria is there.
How will you do that?
Sir, 24-hour urinary protein estimation.
Okay. Is that the only way you will do that, or is there
No,
any
sir.
other way?
Sir, we can also do, sir, spot urine protein creatinine ratio, sir.
Is that
From
what
early-
you will do?
Early morning.
Remember, this is your initial investigation. First time this patient has come to you. Will you do spot urine protein creatinine ratio?
No, sir, 24-hour urinary estimation is.
Why?
Uh, mm, because sir, there is there is strong correlation between urinary protein creatinine ratio and 24-hour, but still the gold standard is at 24-hour because there can be variations.
So will you do that all the time? Because that is the gold standard. Every time the patient comes, you will do 24-hour urine protein.
Ideally, sir, we should.
No, that's not true. I think what's important is that the initial evaluation before you start treatment, you
Yes, sir.
must do 24-hour urinary protein. And when
Yes,
you
sir.
have your 24-hour urinary protein, you should do the creatinine also in that. So you
Yes,
know
sir.
what is the protein creatinine ratio in
Yes,
even
sir.
in that sample.
Yes, sir.
Subsequently, you don't need to repeat 24-hour urinary protein for follow-up.
Yes, sir.
For follow-up, a spot urine protein creatinine ratio is enough.
Yes, sir.
And in most instances of minimal change FSGS, even a dipstick test is good enough
Yes, sir.
because you want to document absence of proteinuria if at all possible, like was there in this case. So you
Yes, sir.
don't want such patients to spend a lot of money in getting 24-hour urine protein or protein creatinine ratio. A simple dipstick test can be done at home and just takes 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Just
But
to follow up, no,
during
sir.
the initial, yes, during follow-up, during the
Follow up.
initial evaluation, before starting treatment, you
Yes,
should
sir.
do at least 1 24-hour urinary protein.
Yes, sir.
Right? So that
Yes,
you
sir.
will do that. What else will you
Yes, sir.
do?
Sir, serum albumin level, sir.
So you will do a serum albumin level, very important, right?
Yes, sir.
Because
Uh, to
why?
s- to see, sir, whether there is hypoalbuminemia or not, which also gives which is a strong pointer toward nephrotic syndrome, not the nephrotic range proteinuria.
Well,
So
once you have nephrotic range, once you have proteinuria of, more than 3 grams, the
yes, sir.
question of nephrotic syndrome is not in doubt. But why do you do? I think we just discussed, right? Because you
Yes,
want
sir.
to try and ascertain if this patient requires any urgent management. And
Yes,
how
sir.
will
Yes, sir.
serum albumin help in that?
Sir, serum albumin gives us about a fair idea about the nutritional status, sir. And
अरे,
second, sir,
करोगे क्या उसे? करोगे क्या? Suppose serum albumin is 1, what will you do?
sir, in that case, sir, patient has a very high risk of thromboembolic complications. Or second, sir, management-wise, it
So,
will
so
be
what will you
difficult.
do? So I will stop you there. What will you
Yes, sir.
do? Don't tell me. Don't give me theory. He's at a
Yes,
high
sir.
risk of trauma.
Yes, sir. Sir,
What will you do?
prophylactic anticoagulation, sir.
Will you give
Uh,
prophylactic anticoagulation to everyone?
Sir, in that case, sir, if serum albumin is 1, sir, and
Uh,
he has
I'm giving.
edema,
Yeah.
and he has edema, sir, and if we will also look for hyperlipidemia if it is there, so we should uh, give him this prophylactic anticoagulation, sir.
Well, there is a protocol. I'm going to share my screen and show you
Yes, sir.
what is the protocol. So can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So this is the protocol for deciding on anticoagulation based on serum albumin. So this is what you do. Once
Yes, sir.
if the serum
If it
albumin is less than
2.5.
2.2,
Yes, sir.
देखो यार तुमको तो जितना आता था वो बता दिया तुमने.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, if the serum albumin is less than 2.5, then this
Yes, sir.
patient is at a high risk of venous thromboembolism.
Yes, sir.
You can't just start anticoagulation in such patients right away. Then you have to ascertain whether this patient also has bleeding risk. If the
Yes, sir.
patient has high bleeding risk, you can't give this patient warfarin type anticoagulants. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But if the patient has low, and there are tools to ascertain bleeding risk, and one of the tools is given here. And if
Yes,
the
sir.
patient has low bleeding risk, then you can start on warfarin.
Yes, sir.
And please also note that just the presence of low serum albumin by itself is not enough. Okay, you have to look at other things also, which I'll tell you in a moment.
Yes,
But
sir.
if the serum albumin is less than 3.2, between 2.5 and 3.2, then you have to also ascertain. So we here we spoke about venous thromboembolism. Then you should ascertain the risk of arterial thromboembolism, which can be done by a number of other factors like Framingham risk score, any history of previous arterial thromboembolism, etc., or if there are any additional risk factors, which I'll tell you about. And then there is a risk threshold which is given here. If the risk is more than 20 per 1,000 patient years, then you start this patient on aspirin, not on warfarin. Okay.
Yes, sir.
If there is high
Arterial
arterial
problem.
thromboembolism. Now let me show you what are the conditions in which you will. So here it is. Okay, let me share my screen once again. Because these are the kind of things you guys never think about. You are too worried just about giving cyclosporine and all of that. Okay? So anticoagulation should be given if proteinuria is really high grade, if the person is obese, if there is something that suggests that there is a genetic predisposition, if the patient has heart failure, or if the patient is immobilized. You know, some of the patients may become bedridden, they may be so ill, you know, with edema. Or even during hospitalization, then you should start these people on prophylactic full dose anticoagulation. And
Yes,
of course, here are some contraindications to prophylactic anticoagulation that you should be mindful of. So doing a serum albumin is important at that particular point of time for these reasons, to establish whether or not this patient requires any intervention from that condition.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you will do serum albumin, you will do serum creatine, of course, and establish the GFR. You will do a blood count and so on and so forth. What else will you do?
Sir, CBC, KFT, LFT,
Yeah.
that's our viral
You do
markers, HIV, viral markers like sir, HIV, HBs, HE, HCV.
Okay.
Then sir,
Why do you do HIV in these patients?
sir, HIV can cause sir HIV nephropathy and FSGS. It's an important
How
secondary
many
cause.
How many HIV nephropathy cases have you seen? Have you seen even one?
Sir, no sir,
I have not seen one.
no sir. I have also not seen sir.
So in India, you don't develop HIV associated glomerular disease. So
Yes.
doing HIV from that point of view is not important. However, HIV status may determine the rest of the management of this patient. So you want to do it from that point of view, not from finding out the diagnosis.
Yes.
For finding out diagnosis, HbS-Ag anti-HCV is important. So you should
Yes,
do
sir.
that. What else will you do?
Then sir, urinary protein estimation हो गया और then sir ultrasound abdomen,
Ultrasound, okay.
chest X-ray and ultrasound, and urine routine and culture.
Why do you want to do chest X-ray?
If he had some sir focus of tuberculosis or that, so just to rule out tuberculosis, sir.
To rule out tuberculosis. Okay, that's a fair answer.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And ESR, sir. ESR.
Why ESR?
As a marker of sir inflammation.
Really?
And
ESR is, how many times in your life has ESR been helpful in deciding on inflammatory status of an individual?
sir, very high ESR, like more than 100. Sir,
Again,
that.
don't dig your own grave. The only
Yes, sir.
situation in which ESR will be helpful is if you are thinking of multiple myeloma.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And vasculitis.
How many times have you made a diagnosis of vasculitis on the basis of ESR? So don't go there. Anyway, we don't want to waste our time.
Yes,
What
sir.
else
Yes,
will you
sir.
do?
Then sir, kidney biopsy, sir. Sir,
No other
PTA.
you
Sir.
said PLA2R.
Yes, sir. Serum PLA2R.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
PLA2R you will do. Then
Yes,
you will do. Suppose PLA2R is positive. What will you do? Suppose the PLA2R report comes as 150. Then?
sir, 150 is sir high value, sir. So,
Yeah,
if we have to follow it, sir, at 0 month, at 3 month, at 3 monthly interval. We
so
have to follow.
what will it tell you? What will it tell you? Suppose you have a patient where your differential diagnosis is still open. You
Yes,
did a
sir.
PLA2R, it has come 150.
Yes, sir. So, sir, if
What does it mean?
sir, it is a pointer toward membranous nephropathy, but
Pointer? What do you mean it is a pointer toward membranous nephropathy?
So, sir, in primary membranous nephropathy, even in 70 to 80% of patients, we can have this PLA2R antibody positivity.
So
So,
what does it, so PLA2R, what does it mean?
sir, it means that
Okay,
the
I think you
patient
are going to go around in circles. It means that the patient has
patient has
membranous nephropathy.
yes, sir, primary membranous
It is
nephropathy.
not a pointer. It
Yes, sir.
tells you that the patient has membranous nephropathy. So
Yes,
you
sir.
will make a diagnosis of membranous nephropathy. All right.
Yes,
So
sir.
that is the first thing that will happen if
Yes,
PLA2R
sir.
comes positive. And
Yes,
then
sir.
you have to decide what do you do on the basis of this report so far as patient management is concerned.
Yes, sir.
That will depend on a number of factors like, you know, how severe is the proteinuria,
Yes, sir.
how high is the PLA2R level,
And
you know,
presence
that
of renal dysfunction is there or not?
membranous nephropathy, you don't have renal dysfunction normally. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
don't go there. So
Yes,
if
sir.
the PLA2R level is very high, if the proteinuria is high, I might want to start treatment right away. If the
Yes, sir.
PLA2R level is not very high, if the proteinuria is not that high, then I might continue with conservative management for 6 months and then decide. Okay, that's
Yes,
the
sir.
preferred thing.
Yes, sir.
Suppose, okay, you did PLA2R, PLA2R is negative. Then
Yes, sir. And we are thinking for membranous, sir. Yeah.
I don't know what are you thinking. I don't know what is in your mind. We
Sir,
are
then,
discussing
sir.
this case. This
Yes, sir.
case, you've
Sir,
done all these
PT.
investigations.
Yes, sir. PT, APTT, INR, and followed by kidney biopsy, sir.
Okay, so you will do a kidney biopsy. So Dr. Balla, was the kidney biopsy report known in this patient? Do we know what is the kidney biopsy report?
No, sir.
Anyone? Anyone from the
We
unit?
don't have. We
Anyone?
don't have. We don't have the report, sir.
You don't have the report, but someone
Yes,
from the
sir.
unit should have the report.
Yes, sir.
I think I can see Dr. Vinod, Dr. Manish, etc. See Dr. Bhalla also, but no one knows what was the biopsy report in this case.
Sir, it was FSG, sir. Hello, sir.
All right.
Yes,
So
sir.
FSGS is not, you know, I don't want to hear a report like this. This
Yes,
is
sir.
something you go and tell a gynecologist the diagnosis of FSGS. I want
Yes,
to
sir.
see what is the detailed biopsy report.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, so let's say this was FSGS, and
Yes,
this
sir.
patient came to you. You did a biopsy, the diagnosis of FSGS. So
Yes,
what
sir.
would you do? How would you treat such a patient?
Sir, first we will look for whether there are some secondary causes of FSGS are there, because sir, FSGS is just a histological pattern. So, so we have to rule out the sir secondary causes, and if they are
What
not,
secondary
then
cause?
sir, like drugs can cause a secondary FSGS. Viral infections can cause. Sir,
How do you differentiate between primary and secondary FSGS? Because histology on history, on investigations, and on histology.
sir, on history, sir, primary FSGS usually presents with a sudden onset nephrotic syndrome, while in case of secondary FSGS, it is more of the proteinuria is not so marked, and they usually don't present with full-blown nephrotic syndrome, sir.
So you
That
should
is,
say in this patient has presented with a full-blown nephrotic syndrome,
yes, sir.
was symptomatic. The
Yes, sir.
likelihood of it being secondary is low.
Low. Yes, sir.
Don't say that I will look for secondary cause,
Yes, sir.
because you have read it in a book that there are secondary viral induced and drug induced and all of that.
Yes,
This
sir.
patient did, you have taken a history, this patient didn't take any drugs or anything. So why are you going in that direction? So it's good to say that that you will want to rule out secondary causes, but you should quickly add that in this patient there is no evidence to suggest that he has a
Yes, sir.
secondary FSGS. All evidence suggests that he has primary FSGS.
Primary FSGS. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
how are you going to treat his primary FSGS?
Sir, as treated in this case, sir, first, sir, long course of steroids, sir. 1 milligram
I
per.
know. This is exactly what I suspected. Is that the first thing you do to any patient with nephrotic syndrome? You start
No,
them on
sir.
some immunosuppressant?
No, sir. Sir, patient is on nephrotic syndrome. So we will, sir, first give him a trial of ACE inhibitor ARP along with
Not, what do you
hyper.
mean a trial of? What do you mean a trial of? What does a trial of mean?
Sir, we will give him ACE inhibitors or ARV, sir.
What's the and please don't get into this trap of thinking that you are treating a patient only if you are giving him toxic treatment like steroids, like cytotoxic agents, like calcineurin inhibitors.
Yes, sir.
Now, there are many things that you still need to do to treat a patient appropriately. You gave
Yes,
this
sir.
patient diuretic, that's a
Yes,
treatment,
sir.
right?
Yes, yes, sir. Sir,
So you will give,
optimizing. Yes, sir.
yeah,
Optimizing
you will,
blood.
you will give angiotensin blocking agents.
Yes, sir.
What drug will you give? What dose?
Sir, we can give either angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor or ARB, sir.
I'm asking you a very simple question. What
Sir,
drug you will give? What dose?
Ramipral, sir, as given in this case, sir.
What dose?
So 5 milligram per day.
And then what will you do?
And then, sir, we will check for hyperlipidemia. If it is there, sir, we will give.
So
A,
we are still on Ramipril. You've given Ramipril 5 milligram
yes,
a
sir.
day,
Yes, sir.
and then you will leave him on 5 milligram a day forever.
Sir, we will titrate it, sir,
What
according
is
to his blood pressure response to keep his BP less than 125 by 75, uh, and also looking for
blood pressure?
whether patient does not
So,
develop hypotension, sir.
so it's not question of titrating. You have to
Yes, sir.
increase the dose until he stops tolerating it. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You don't titrate it to anything. So you
Yes.
increase it to the maximum tolerated dose.
Dose. Yes, sir.
That's very important. What else will you do?
Sir,
What other
avo
advice will you give him? What other advice will you give?
avoiding high protein diet, sir.
What do you mean avoiding high protein diet?
Sir, his protein intake should be 0.8 to 1 gram per kg body weight plus plus the urinary loss of proteins in 24 hours. So that should be for his
All right.
case. Yes,
Again,
sir.
I think we have just about 10, 12 minutes. So,
Yes, sir.
again, let me show you what do you need to do in such cases.
Yes,
Because
sir.
treatment of these patients is not just giving them steroids and other things. You have to really treat the patient overall. So you need to give dietary advice. The first thing you have to say is that you will ask them to reduce their dietary salt intake
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
to less than 5 gram a day, and sodium will be less than
Yes,
2 grams.
like 2 grams per day. Yes, sir.
ये बताना पड़ेगा भाई, नहीं तो पास नहीं होगे एग्जाम में.
Yes, sir.
If you tell me that the first thing you will give is steroid, I will ask you to come again after 1 year.
Yes, sir.
And then of course protein intake, but you need to give additional gram of protein up to 5 gram a day per gram of protein losses.
Yes, sir.
You know? And you should not reduce the protein intake to very low. That's something which is very important, because that is
Yes,
what most of you guys do. And of course, we should try and emphasize plant sources of protein. While giving that, we must ensure adequate calorie intake also, and the diet should be healthy in terms of its effect on cardiovascular complications. Dietary fat should be less than about a third of the total calories, and saturated fat should be less than 10% of total calories. So that's the kind of dietary advice you need to give, first of all. If the patient is obese, you need to ask the person to reduce
the
weight
weight. Yes,
to a
sir.
healthy weight. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Physical exercise is essential. So all of that is really very critical before you give.
Yes, sir.
I think there was some question from someone, if PLAR2 was positive and there was no contraindication for biopsy, would we still proceed for biopsy? The answer to that is, as of now, right now, before starting treatment in a patient with membranous nephropathy, I would do a biopsy. So if there is a patient who is PLAR2 positive, and I am treating this patient with, I would not do a biopsy right away. Okay, I will treat this patient with conservative management, adequate blood pressure control, ACE inhibitor use, etc., and follow this patient. If this patient shows reduction in proteinuria and goes into remission, I would not do a biopsy. But if the patient continues to be fully nephrotic and I have to treat this patient, I would then do a biopsy at that stage. All right. So that was one question. Are the anticoagulation indications same for all nephrotic syndromes? Yes, the answer is yes. This is a general recommendation. Okay, so let's go to, we gave dietary advice, we gave advice to reduce weight. Anyone who's smoking, you have to ask them to stop smoking. If people are taking alcohol, you have to ask them to stop taking alcohol. All that is important, because, and then you have to watch the patient after all of this. Don't start on steroids right away, okay? And then you, of course, you start steroids. So how much steroids, what dose, for how long? FSGs.
Sir, 1 milligram per kg body weight per day. Maximum, sir, 80 milligram in adult for 4 to 16 weeks. With subsequent tapering for up to 6 months until the patient achieves remission.
Suppose you have started steroids. What dose you give? 1 milligram per kg,
Per
with a
kg.
maximum of 80 milligrams. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you
Yes, sir.
also give any other dosing regime?
Sir, 2 milligram per kg alternate day, sir.
Alternate day also you can give. For how long?
Yes, sir. Sir, 16 weeks in adults, sir. Maximum.
Maximum. What is the
Yes, sir.
minimum?
Sir, 4 to 16 weeks. The range is there, sir.
Okay. So suppose when do you decide to stop after 4 weeks or reduce after 4 weeks?
Sir, patient achieves remission. And या फिर sir, patient has developed severe steroid toxicity. So in that
So the
case,
answer is that if the patient develops remission, then you continue at least for 2 more weeks, right?
yes, sir.
Before you start reducing.
Yes,
If the
sir.
patient does not achieve remission, you go on till a maximum of 16 weeks. Okay?
Weeks. Yes, yes, sir.
If the patient achieves remission, you go on for 6 months,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
And then how do you taper steroids?
Sir, gradually we taper, sir. First, initially, sir.
Gradually.
Yes, sir. 5 milligram every 2 weeks.
Right. So you should taper by 5 milligram every 1 week to 2 weeks.
Yes,
And
sir.
the total duration of steroids should be at least 6 months.
6
okay?
months. Yes, sir.
That's
Yes,
something which is very important.
Yes, sir.
So again, let me just share my screen with you, basically to show the same thing about steroid. So this is the steroid treatment protocol. High dose steroids, 1 milligram per kg or 2 milligram per alternate day. Continue for at least 4 weeks until complete remission, or maximum of 16 weeks, whichever is earlier. Okay. And please note that if a patient is going to undergo remission, some degree of proteinuria response will come even earlier, right? And if the proteinuria does not go away until 16 weeks, then there is no point in continuing further. And this is the tapering schedule, which is the same way that we discussed a few minutes ago.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
All right. Suppose the patient, in this case, the patient becomes steroid dependent as it happened. Okay?
Yes.
What is
Yes,
your situation in this?
Sir, he is a young male, but he has a possibility of further increasing his family. So in that case, sir, my choice
How
will
do you
be.
know that? How do you know that? Did you ask him?
Yes,
How
sir.
many children does he have?
Sir, he has one children only, which is
Huh?
4 year. He has
Yes.
one children, sir, 4 year old. Yes, sir.
Okay. And he
So
still wants to have.
yes, sir. He still wants to have. So in that case, sir, my choice is, sir, first choice is for CNI, sir, as done in this case, sir. Otherwise, we can also use, sir, cyclophosphamide, oral cyclophosphamide 2 milligram per kg per
So
day.
how do you give CNIs? How do you give CNIs? We have just 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. 3 to 5 milligram per kg per day in 2 divided doses, sir. Cyclosporine is given, and sir, tacrolimus is 0.1 milligram in 2 divided doses, sir. 0.1 milligram per kg body weight per day in 2 divided doses.
Target any levels?
Yes, sir. Sir, for cyclosporine, the C0 level is targeted between, sir, 100 to 150. And for tacrolimus, we target, sir, level of 4 to 6 nanogram per ml.
4 to 6 is a bit too low. I think, you may not achieve remission in all patients with 4 to 6. I would go higher. I would go more like, 6 to 10 in this situation.
Yes.
And in this case, what I found strange was this patient was also given steroids. Is that a standard protocol for treating patients with FSGS with CNIs?
Sir, with cyclosporine, sir, oral cyclosporine is given along with low dose steroid. But in case of
No,
sir,
where is it mentioned that you give it with steroids? I find that very unusual. It's not part of any standard treatment regime at all. CNIs to be given along with steroids. That's very unusual. The whole point of giving CNIs is to if the
corticosteroid
patient
sparing.
yeah, steroid sparing. The patient is steroid dependent. You don't want to still give him 5 milligram. I don't know what good is 5 milligram of steroid doing in this situation, because that is what this patient is receiving. I would stop it right away. That doesn't make any sense. How long will you give it?
Sir, at least 6 months, sir, to see whether there is some response or not. And if the patient shows a response, sorry, sir.
Then,
Sir,
yeah,
if patient shows a response, sir, we can give up to 1 to 2 years, sir.
What do you mean up to 1 to 2 years?
Sir, maximum
The patient has shown response.
Sir, up to 2 years, sir. Up to 2 years.
Up to 2 years.
Yes, sir.
ऐसे थोड़ी होता है, you'll tell the patient up to 2 years. You will have to make a decision, right? So you will give the therapeutic dose for at least 1 year. Okay.
Yes, sir.
After that, you will start tapering. All right.
Yes,
and
sir.
the tapering should be done over the next 6 to 12 months. So
Yes,
it
sir.
has to be given for at least 1.5 years, definitely.
Yes, sir.
So 1.5 years to 2 years,
2 years.
depending on how slowly you taper.
Yes, sir. Yes.
That is something which you need to do. What are the other alternative agents in this situation?
Sir, we can give sir oral cyclophosphamide अगर for fertility का concern ना रहे तो sir. So in that case, sir, oral.
Suppose the patient does not respond to cyclosporine or starts to relapse. What is the risk? What is the risk when you stop cyclosporine in this patient?
Sir, high risk, sir. So usually, sir, around 40 to 50% patients, sir, relapse, sir.
Yeah, the risk of relapse is high.
High.
And so if the patient relapses, what will you do?
Sir, we have options in the form of sir rituximab or MMF.
Yeah, so you'll have to think of alternative treatments.
Yes, sir, alternative treatment.
Is,
either.
But we have to know that we have to be mindful that none of these treatments is very evidence-based.
Yes, sir.
But with the current knowledge, what will you do before doing all of that? That's something
sir,
which is very important.
Sir, rebiopsy, sir.
No, why do you want to rebiopsy? What do you want to see?
Sir, to see whether some chronic damage is there that is causing proteinuria persistence, or the disease is.
The persistence of nephrotic range proteinuria is not likely to be due to chronic damage. Chronic damage gives rise to low-grade proteinuria.
Yes, sir.
If there is persistent nephrotic syndrome, what will you do? So I think I think we have just 1 minute. So the answer here is that you will do genetic testing. If there is FSGS, you should do genetic testing in all patients who are steroid resistant and or CNI resistant later on. Okay, so that's very important. In anyone below the age of 20, you should do genetic testing even before starting treatment. First course of treatment.
Yes, sir.
About 1/3 of all patients with FSGS have a genetic basis.
Genetic basis.
And that proportion increases to almost 2/3 in those below the age of
1 year.
Below the age of 20, not 1 year. Okay,
yes, sir.
So that's something which is very important with current day knowledge. I think we can stop here because we have run out of time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jha. All of you will agree that this is the kind of PGI teaching. PGI teaching means that you have to stress on the history taking and journal physical examination. Today, you have seen the deficiencies in your history, and I am sure when 150, 133 on here party, and there are rest on YouTube. 150 students are listening to this, and all of you have agreed that history taking is very important part, and that is a standard teaching from PGI Chandigarh. And Dr. Jha, he has kept that typical legacy of PGI teaching. I am really grateful to Dr. Jha for taking this excellent clinical bedside discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Once
you.
again, sir,
Everyone.
Yes, Dr. Jha?
I was just saying thank you for asking me to come and participate in this session. Teaching is always enjoyable, and one learns as much from students as one did from one's teachers. In fact, if not more.
right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, thank you, Dr. Balaji, Dr. Vivekananda Jha. It has been very pleasure to have you all with us. And sir, day by day, our student strength also increasing. We are trying to reach up to more number of students across the country. So I think this program is really getting attention from a lot of PGs, and there also been request post program that they want to have access to YouTube links also. So which is also be a personal level also, whoever is requesting, we are forwarding it once they request. So this is an information to all the audience that we have a separate YouTube channel called PMT Critical Care from Micro Labs. So in case if you like to listen to the previous programs, you are free to do that. So I once again thank Dr. Balaji for this opportunity. It's been a very good way to start the entire week. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you all the audience for sharing your valuable time.
Thank you.
Good day.